Hi guys, so the point of this video is to show you exactly what I expect out of you regarding a vocabulary journal plan. So the template that I'm going to go over with you here is the template that you should be using every time we do a vocab journal. So in terms of our instruction here, vocab journal is what you should head this paper, vocab journal number whatever number vocab journal that we're on. So we're going to go ahead and start off this assignment again by having vocab journal number 1. So make sure that your paper is headed properly. That way I know which one I'm working with here. So vocab journal number 1, the first thing that you're going to want to do on your plan sheet, now this is not necessarily going to be your final sheet, but the first thing I want you guys to do is you're going to go ahead and give me the word, the part of speech, and the definition. So that is what you're going to have set up on your paper. So let's say that I was doing the word ubiquitous. Now, knowing what I know about language so far, I know that when I have this suffix us, that means it's probably describing something. So I can think of like the ubiquitous restaurant chain, right? So that describes restaurants. So I know that the part of speech here is an adjective, right? Now, if I didn't know the part of speech, then what I could do is I could simply go to dictionary.com and look up the word. It would in fact tell me that it is an adjective. So I see that the definition is existing or being everywhere, especially at the same time, omnipresent, ubiquitous fog, ubiquitous little ants. You can see here that ubiquitous is being used to describe something, okay? Now, what I would do is when I'm writing on this paper, I want to get a definition down, but I don't just want to copy a definition down. I want to put this into words that I understand. So having looked at the definition once, now I want to put this definition in my own words. Now, I don't need to have it exactly in my own words. I can borrow from the definition that I looked up. That's the whole point. But I want to just make sure that it's in my own words, not copied out of the book. So for definition, I think what I got out of it was appearing everywhere. Now you can see that that is the most important part of the definition that I looked up. So the definition that we looked up on dictionary, that actually has at the same time, appearing everywhere at the same time, but I don't necessarily want to include that in my definition. It's part of it, but it's not necessarily important to me. So we're going to go ahead and move on. We've got the word, the part of speech, and the definition. Our next step is we want to create what's called a logograph, abbreviated LG. Now, a logograph is a non-linguistic representation of our word, which means that basically it just can't use words. More often than not, this is going to be a picture, but it doesn't necessarily even have to be a picture. As long as it's not linguistic, we're good. So, when I think of the word ubiquitous, what I think of is McDonald's. Those, to me, are something that appears everywhere. So, for a logograph, I might draw the McDonald's arches. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? But you get the idea. If I wanted to, I could color that in, and I do want to, so I did. All right. Now, again, not a beautiful drawing, but it gets my point across. So, logograph is a McDonald's M. The next thing that I want to do is I want to come up with 2 synonyms. So 2 synonyms. I need to think of what these are actually going to be. So for appearing everywhere, let's see, I could say obvious might be one, right? Because if it's appearing everywhere, then it's probably going to be pretty obvious. Now, note that McDonald's are not always obvious necessarily, but I mean, I feel like that could be a link. So another synonym for ubiquitous. Obvious. I've got everywhere in the definition, so I don't want to use everywhere. Let's say common, or maybe reoccurring, or frequent. I'm going to go with common. Okay. So these are words that could be the same as ubiquitous. They could be lower, they could be higher. in terms of difficulty, but this makes sense for me. So obvious, common. Now what I want to do is I want to come up with antonyms. Now here's the thing. When it comes to antonyms, this gets pretty easy. All I have to do is really take the synonyms that I came up with and do opposites of them. And that's pretty much all I have to do. So if something's not obvious, maybe it is hidden or secret. Right? That's my first one done. And if something's not common, then it's rare. And I can now kind of understand the opposites of the word ubiquitous. This is helping to deepen my understanding of a word here. So after I do my synonyms and my antonyms, I'm going to want to come up with 4 real-world examples of the word ubiquitous. So examples. And these don't necessarily have to be things that are ubiquitous. They could be things that might be described as ubiquitous, something that you might use your word to describe will kind of help out some of us. So we're going to do 4 of these examples because I feel like the more you can use it in practicality, the better you're going to be. So some things that are ubiquitous in our world are Starbucks, maybe even more so than McDonald's. I don't know about that. Kind of doubt it. I'm going to go ahead and put McDonald's as an example. Why not? I've already done that work, right? Starbucks, McDonald's. One example that I like to do here is Honda Civics. Those things are literally everywhere. And oxygen. Whoop, what am I doing there? And oxygen. Now notice, I'm not drawing pictures here. Because we do the logograph, some people always want to do pictures when it comes to this. So we're just going to actually do words here for our examples. Now the next thing that I want to do is I want to have a practice sentence. Okay, my practice sentence, I would say, let's see. In the movie Star Wars, the Force is ubiquitous. Now, I've used this in a sentence, but what I want to do is I want to add on to the end of this. The Force is ubiquitous. It's always, or maybe it's everywhere. Just, it's everywhere, right? To kind of add on to the end of that. Now, the next part that I want to do is I want to get my etymology done. So we're going to abbreviate that as ETYM. And the way that you're going to do this is you're actually going to go on the internet to this website called the Online Etymology Dictionary, and you're going to type it in here. Give me a second. I should have had this done before. Ubiquitous, and search it. And what's going to come up is all of this information. Now, of all of this information, the most important part is this right here. The way that the word breaks down. We call these morphemes, and you're going to hear about this a little bit more as we study these. The smallest units of meaning. So it's from ubiquity plus us. That's what you need to have on your paper. Okay? The way that the word breaks down into the smallest units of meaning. You can include a definition, but that's not necessarily as important. So ubiquity, and then my T's look like pluses, so I'm actually going to kind of make this a bubble plus if I can. Plus us, right? So that's the most important thing. Once you've got all of those steps done, you've got your vocab journal planned out. You can start putting it into the final presentation copy. And we'll go over that in another video.